Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan Newple here, Knup Sports Show. Hey, it's a very special episode. We like to celebrate every 25. I don't know why that is, but every 25 episodes, we always throw a little party. We have some fun. We have special guests on, and we are excited. This is episode 175, and we have a treat for you today. We have professional golfer Nick O'Hern on the show. I am super pumped, super jacked for this. Excited he's given us a little time to tell us all about his career and what he has going on. So first off, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into this show each and every time. We really appreciate your support as we grow the Knup Sports Show. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guest. As I mentioned, professional golfer all the way from Australia. Nick O'Hern is with me. Nick, how are you today, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks, Ryan. It's looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and I know it's probably late there in Australia, right?
Yeah, it's just gone 11 p.m., so it's not too bad. I usually go to bed around this time, so I can hang around for another half hour or so.
There you go. A little pre-bed podcast for yourself. I love it. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm excited to dive into everything that you got going on. I know, listeners and followers of this show probably have heard your name before. I know I had when I was introduced to you. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself as a professional golfer, and I guess just over the career about yourself that led up to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Western Australia, over in Perth there, and wasn't much. Funnily enough, wasn't much good as an amateur golfer. I ended up doing a traineeship where I learned how to teach, and I started my professional golf career as a teaching pro. Interestingly enough, in my early 20s, and then I guess in my mid 20s, I sort of figured the game out and connected with the right people as far as a coach goes and a sports psychologist, and got really started improving through my mid to late 20s, and then kind of worked my way up through the rankings. I ended up playing started here in Australia, then went across to the European tour, and then eventually got my world ranking down into the top 50 in the world and headed across to the US and played on the PGA Tour for a number of years as well. So probably about a 20-year playing career all up. And about 5 years or so ago, I stopped playing full time, and my family and I moved back to Australia about 3 years ago after living in your neck of the woods. We lived in Orlando, Florida for about 13 years, and decided to move back to Australia and finish off life down here. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it again back down here. And I've almost come full circle in a way, I guess, because I'm back to helping golfers of all levels, doing a bit of coaching, some corporate golf outings, writing some books, doing a bit of TV commentary, and involved in a couple of exciting new companies. So plenty going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I want to stay on your career for a little bit here before we dive into kind of the future. You had some success. You were a very successful golfer, probably still are. Tell us about the one of the biggest feats. I mean, I keep reading all around. The only man to beat Tiger Woods twice in the World Match Play Championship. I mean, nobody else can claim that. Is that correct? That is amazing. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to play Tiger in match play.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing to be known for, I guess. It was funny when I was playing a lot of golf in the US, people would sort of say, "Hey, that's the guy that beat Tiger." They actually probably didn't know my name, but but they knew that I beat him. But as I like to sort of joke around and tell people, I always say, "Well, I figured out Tiger's weakness." And they say, "Oh, weakness? What's that?" And I said, "Well, it's he doesn't like short-hitting left-handed Australians." So, that was pretty much my game in a nutshell, I guess. I wasn't the longest hitter on tour, that's for sure, probably one of the shortest, but I had a very good short game, and from a mental standpoint, I was pretty solid as well. So match play was one of my favorite formats of the game. I just wish there was a lot more around. I mean, growing up in Australia, we play a lot of match play down here in club golf, so I always enjoyed the aspect of you only have to beat one other person,
Yeah.
and I came up against Tiger twice, the first time in 2005 and the second time in 2007. And I guess probably the main strategy I had when I played against him was heading into that first match. Funnily enough, my caddy and we sat down the night before and we thought, okay, how are we going to beat this guy? I mean, he's number one in the world. He's obviously winning everything going. And, up until that point, let's see, 2005, he was on an absolute record run at that particular stage. And we came up with a strategy of Tiger's only ever, at that particular point, won a major when he's been tied for the lead or leading going into the final round. And he never won a major coming from behind. So I sort of use that strategy of, okay, if I can get ahead of this guy, I've got a chance. But if I'm behind, I kind of have no chance because he's
Right.
basically the ultimate front runner. And as it turned out in that first match, when I played him on the first hole, I had about a 10-foot putt for par to halve the hole. And I was lining the putt up, and my caddy kind of comes over, and I'm say, "Oh, what do you think the read is?" And he said, "Well, I don't know about the read," he said, "but I think this putt right here is for the match." So that was an interesting comment to make, but he knew that would lock my mind in, and sure enough, I rolled that in, birdied the next couple, and I got up 2 up after 3, and sort of the rest is history. I guess I never relinquished the lead, and then same thing happened in the second match. I got a nice lead in the beginning, and over the 2 matches, I never trailed to him. So I guess my theory holds true, and the fact that I can say that. If you get a lead on him, you've got a chance, and 2-0 was a pretty cool record to have. That's for sure.
It really is. That's awesome. I'm sure those memories are in your mind, ingrained forever. And just, with him being at the pinnacle during that time, I mean, I'm guessing, looking back at it now, just a very cool moment. I mean, I know you played against all sorts of great golfers, but, Tiger was like, to most of us, was larger than life, still is larger than life. But back then when he was really succeeding so much. So I'm sure that experience was just amazing.
Oh, it certainly was. Yeah, I mean, he's through my era, obviously the greatest golfer that I've ever come across. I mean, Jack Nicklaus was my idol growing up, and then we had Greg Norman. Obviously, was an Australian icon for a lot of young players coming through. But who knows who they're going to count as the greatest of all time? I guess you could say Jack's major record is up there, but Tiger, all the events he won and time spent as number 1 player in the world. It was pretty cool to play in that era, I guess you could say, and it's great to see him, still back playing the odd event. He played the Open Championship. Obviously, fitness is now a bit of an issue for him, but
Sure.
I've been fortunate over my career to play with a lot of I guess former world number 1, like Nick
Hmm.
Faldo for a bit,
Hmm.
Greg Norman, Vijay Singh, Ernie, Tiger, you name it. Yeah,
Really
it's pretty
cool.
cool to play with those guys and experience how they go about their craft.
That's awesome. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. I know you mentioned kind of stepping away kind of from playing the game at a professional level, maybe around 5 years ago, and started shifting into more of the business side of things. Before we dive into all the ventures that you have going on, how was that transition? Because I know playing professionally, anything, when you step away, you're going to miss it, right? You're going to miss that piece of it. How was that transition from you going from player to business person? How was that transition?
It was a little tough, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, when I first stepped away, I guess the reason I stopped playing was I found myself in hotel rooms just thinking I don't really want to be here.
Mm,
I've got 2 girls and my wife who was we're based in Orlando, as I said, and I would just the grind at that particular point. I guess I was in my mid 40s, and all those years of traveling and being away from birthdays and parties
yeah.
and things that go on at home, it can sort of get to you. And yeah, the first year or 2 was interesting. I sort of did, I guess you could say, sort of consulting work in different fields and things like that, just to get away from the game completely. And then I just realized, you know what, I love golf. I want to get back into it, and that's when I actually wrote my first book called Tour Mentality: Inside the Mind of a Tour Pro, which kind of came about by accident. So I kind of became an author more than anything, which was a bit weird at the time. I never thought of myself as a writer, but it just kind of came about, and then from that, I had some young pros and college players reach out just to sort of pick my brain, and I became a bit of a mentor in a sense. And so I got back into the coaching and the mentoring side of things, and that's sort of the path that I've really been going down ever since. And then just as I was just before we left to come back to Australia, I got involved with a company which is called D3 Golf, which has to do with golf and wagering on the golf course. And I mean, when I was first approached about this, I thought, oh, okay, this kind of combines my 2 loves. It's a game of golf, and you get to wager on the course, because that's what I did growing up. Basically, every time you went out on the golf course, you had a bit of a wager or a bet on the game. And I thought, oh wow, there's a cool app out like this. I'd love to get involved, and sort of been working on that ever since, along with a couple of other things.
That's amazing. Yeah, we had Tom Naramore of D3Golf.com. He was on episode 173. So for those of you listening that do want to learn a lot more about D3 Golf, man, we dove in with him Great guy, awesome concept. I love that concept. And yeah, like you said, when we're on the golf course, that's what we're doing. We're making little side bets. We're betting on whatever, even if it's not like the way we do it currently is very unprofessional. Now there's an actual platform around it. So I love that concept, and pretty awesome that you're involved in that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. And when I first met Tom, I mean, I tell you, I thought I was passionate about the game of golf, but Tom, man, he loves it.
Hmm.
He's really right into the game, and we've hit it off ever since I first connected with him a few years ago. And it's a great platform. I mean, I'm excited to be involved with it. And golf's just the beginning. You know, we're going to look at taking this into some other sports. This peer-to-peer wagering is a really cool thing, and at the moment it's launched in the US. It's not down here in Australia. We're still working through some things in that regard. But once it comes down here, I'm going to be spreading the word. That's for sure.
That's awesome. As a professional golfer, this is maybe a little random side question here, and really doesn't apply to D3 golf, but I'm curious what your stance is on just legalizing sports betting and betting on, let's say, the PGA Tour or betting on these professional events. Does it as a player, do you even think about people are betting on me or not betting on me? Or, I mean, does that affect you as a player at all that this is going on around your event?
No, I never used to when I was playing. I mean, it's funny, back on the European tour when I was playing over there, and even down here in Australia, people would bet on you, and as far as a lot of it was betting on who would win in your group. So if there was
Sure.
three players, you only had to beat the other two players, and sometimes people would send you messages saying, "Hey, I got my money on you today," but which is a bit awkward at times.
No
But to be
pressure.
honest, yeah, but as a player, you don't even worry about that sort of stuff. And I know betting and gambling's coming into the sport as well, and I think it's a good thing. It's obviously there are areas that when addictions and things like that come into it, it's not great. But for most people, I think a friendly little wager here and there is it adds to the competition and it's a bit of fun.
Well, it sounds like you have the right mentality, obviously, with your book name and everything that you have going on. But I mean, it seems like it could affect some people if you don't have the right mentality. Right, you could start getting sidetracked. But let's talk a little bit about mentality, because I think that was the first book you wrote, Tour Mentality: Inside the Mind of a Tour Pro. Tell us a little bit about that book, and what it's all about.
Yeah, well, it came about. I was actually playing a round of golf with some friends at Isleworth, where I was a member out there in Orlando. And one guy, he was having these issues with his game, and I said, "Look, I know you got a million swing thoughts going through your head. Don't worry about that. Just focus on this one thing." And I sort of spoke to him about visualizing a target and so on. And
Hmm.
anyway, he started playing well, and he said, and we started talking about the mental game. And in the end, after the round, he said, "You should write a book on all this stuff." And I said, "Nah, there are plenty of mental game books out there. Bob Rotell's obviously written a lot of good ones, etc., etc." And he said, "Yeah, but all those are written by sports psychologists. You played the game for a living. I think you got some good ideas." And the more I thought about it, I thought, okay, well, I'll write down a few notes for my friend, which I gave to him. And then once he read those, he really enjoyed those. And he said, "Well, can you give me some more?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So, one page turned into 5 and 10 and 20, 30. And after about 50 pages, I thought, well, maybe I've got a bit of a book here.
Yeah.
So it's really, the book is, I guess, in a nutshell, about how I went about the mental side of the game throughout my career. I'd sort of tell stories around that. When I did well from a mental standpoint, and when I didn't. There's some examples when I kind of screwed up. So
Mhm.
it's a bit of both sides of the coin, I guess you could say, but it's told through stories in my career, and I think that's always a nice way to relay messages is when you tell it through stories, and giving people examples. And then there's also a lot
Yeah.
of information in there about how to practice and some other
Sure.
thoughts on the game as well.
Sure, and you must have enjoyed it enough to do book number 2. I mean, if one book wasn't enough, you had to jump in and do a second book, How to Play Your Best Golf. That's your most recent book. Tell us a little bit about that one, and I guess same story. Well, how'd that come about, and what's the book all about?
Yeah, well, we moved back to Australia a few years ago, and I live in Melbourne, Victoria, where all the great sandbelt courses are. But as it turned out, when COVID came along, Melbourne became the most locked down city in the world. So we had no golf. We couldn't get out and do anything, basically. And I'd always had a bit of an idea to do a follow up to Tour Mentality, because it had proved quite popular, to be honest. And I thought, well, I'm locked down. I can't do much for about a year here. Let's start writing this new one, and that's sort of how it took shape. And the follow up, I guess, this book is more about all the things I've been helping golfers with, I guess, since I stopped playing, and things that I've always known as a professional golfer and that I've worked on throughout my career, but probably a lot of golfers out there don't really know about. And I think it's funny, my wife summed it up the best the other day when she said to me, you know, your new book is about everything you don't learn on the driving range. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool way to think about it. So it's really about all the things on the golf course that no one really teaches you. I mean, when you have a
Yeah.
lesson from someone, you tend to go to the range and you work on your golf swing. You don't learn about how to hit shots into the wind or how to play off
Mm.
sloping lies, or when you get into a fairway bunker and you got a bad lie, what should you do, and all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of things on strategy, course management, some things on preparation, how to warm up properly. There's still some mental game elements there. I talk a bit more about the mental game, and I think probably a section which is one of the most important is on what I call the scoring clubs. So your short game, your chipping, bunkers, and putting, and not so much from a technical standpoint, more so, you know, I talk a lot about rhythm and tempo and how to read greens and et cetera, how to play different shots in different situations. So it's not your typical instructional book in that sense. As I say, it's more about how to play than how to swing the golf club, because everyone's got their own swing and style. These are sort of things that will help you to just shave strokes off your score.
Mm.
Someone said to me the other day, you know, if I caddied for a 18 handicapper, how many strokes could you take off? And I said, oh, I could probably take 6 strokes off at least to begin with, and that's without even practicing, which is a fun thing to think about, really.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about, I guess, the business that you have, right? You're a board member of dollar, d3golf.com, founder, director of the Tour Pro Experience. Obviously written books and stuff now. So you kind of have this entrepreneurial mindset now coming out of golf. Now you're in the business world. Tell us a little bit how, I guess how that is for you. How, do you look at that as like, because when you're golfing, you're competing, right? In business, you have to compete as well. Do you have that similar mindset in business?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's funny. I have a philosophy, I used throughout my entire career. Was how can I get better today? And I've sort of, I guess, taken that into the business side of things as well. I thought, well, okay, how can I improve things from a business perspective today? So if you think about that and you can structure your days with that in mind, I think. Success can kind of follow, and it's a slow process, that's for sure. You can never sort of make large gains overnight or at a day at a time. But if you just approach each day in that regard, in a similar vein as how I went about how I played golf, things can work out. And yeah, I've got a few different things going on. I just enjoy being involved with golf, I guess. I'm doing a little bit of TV commentary here in Australia, which is a lot of fun. And
Hmm.
talking about the game that I love is always nice. And then these Tour Pro experiences, yeah, I created those a little while back for the corporate market, and to sort of show people what it's like to be a Tour Pro for a day and entertain clients and things like that, which is a lot of fun. But the golf app, the D3 golf app, is another main focus of mine at the moment, and yeah, it's exciting to work with Tom and the team and really get that going in the United States and grow that to who knows what it could be.
I love that principle and that mindset of how do we move the needle forward today, right? Because us as
Mm.
entrepreneurs and business owners, we tend to like think too big and too fast and try to like, oh, what am I going to do in 3, 4, 5 months? No, what are you going to do today to move your business forward? I love that mindset. Super powerful for people listening that maybe trying to start up a business or just getting into this space. I love that. I know you didn't even mean to give a tip, but a great tip for those listening there, Nick.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, everyone looks, for the future, and it's funny, you can get caught up with that as a golfer, especially,
Mm.
but as a business person, you obviously want your long-term strategy. But I always find that okay, we need to break that down into very short-term goals, and there's no better time to do it a day at a time. And as a golfer, as I said, my goal was to improve on a daily basis, and if you can carry that into other aspects of your life, well, it can only lead to good things, I think.
Amazing. Well, Nick, I will let you go. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on, but before I let you go, what's the future look like? I mean, just more of this. Is it continuing to write books, continuing to invest in and be a part of businesses, or what's the future look like for you?
Yeah, book-wise, I'm a little tapped out at the moment because this second book, How to Play Best Golf, I've put a lot of good idea, a lot of my ideas into that. I haven't given away all my secrets, but most of them, I guess you could say. But who knows? There might be another one down the line. But yeah, my main focus at the moment is really I love helping golfers. I'm doing a few of these corporate outings that I've spoke about, and also I'm coaching quite a few golfers as well. But again, mostly on the golf course. Very rarely do I get on the range with people. And the other good thing which has come about after all this is, funnily enough, my wife has started playing golf, which is amazing. I mean, she was a big tennis player, and when we were living in the US, played a lot of tennis, but she wasn't into golf. But the last couple of years we've been back in Australia, she's picked up the game of golf. So my goal is to get her down to a single-figure handicap. So how's that for a goal?
Now, tell me the truth here. Do you and your wife get on d3golf.com and make a little friendly wager when you're out on the course?
Well, we can't do that in Australia as yet because it's not down here. But I
got
can
it.
guarantee you we will. And it's a good thing it's not here at the moment, because with the handicap system, which is the beauty of golf, I mean, I play off a +3 these days, and she's off about a 20 handicap. So it's very rare that I win. So it's probably a good thing we don't wager.
No, you're never going to win playing the wife. It's just that even if you do, you're not going to win. So that's
Exactly.
amazing, though. It's amazing you're getting that family out there to play. Sounds like lots going on in your world, Nick, and really appreciate your time here that you gave to the show. And I'm sure everybody listening has enjoyed this episode thoroughly. So thank you for being here. Hey, where can people grab a copy of the two books that you mentioned? What's the best way of getting one of those?
The best way and the simplest is just to get on amazon.com, and both of my books are on there. And if you love them, well, it'd be great for you to leave a review or something like that. Or I also have a website, nickohern.com. You can always reach me through email. If anyone's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Amazing. I'll make sure to put those exact Amazon links out in the show notes. That way people can click, buy, leave reviews. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy of both and make sure I get in the mind of Nick O'Hern. I'm excited to learn your tips. I'm not the best golfer in the world, but maybe if I read How to Play Your Best Golf, I can at least get a few more tips. We'll see.
I'll guarantee you'll shave strokes off, no problem.
Awesome, Nick. Well, I appreciate your time. Hey, episode 175, you were a milestone episode, so thank you for being here. If you ever get back down to Orlando, man, you spent 13 years here. So if you ever get over here, make sure you look me up. We'll go out to coffee or something.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for the chat, Ryan.
All right, Nick. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, that was Nick O'Hern. Episode 175 is in the books. We really appreciate him giving us some time at 11 p.m. there in Australia. A couple books you got to go check out. We'll put those links in the show notes. How to Play Your Best Golf, Total Tour Minds Mentality Inside the Mind of a Tour Pro. Can't wait to learn a little bit from those books. Thank you so much again for your time. I'm Ryan Newpel at KNUP. You'll find us out there on any social media platform. I'm mostly on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to me out there, you can leave me a message and we can chat out there as well. All right. Until next time, stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Checking out Ryan Newpel. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.